Welcome to the Spac Alpha web series. My name is Dan Dombrowski, and today I'm speaking with Dan Wagner and Stephen Herbert. Dan started Rezolve in 2007 to be the commerce engagement platform designed for mobile. Stephen sits as the CEO and chairman of Armada Acquisition, and they're partnering with Rezolve in a deal valued at approximately $2 billion. We discuss how this transaction came together, the current void that exists with user engagement, and how Rezolve is executing on their plan to change this. If you're curious about the direction of mobile user engagement, these experts bring decades of experience, and they've been kind enough to join me today. Please enjoy my conversation with Dan and Stephen. Now, Dan, it seems like you could have had really untold success at WCRS or even when you started MAID, but what is that spark that has really just kept you going?
You know, I like creating things. I feel like I'm a creative person, and I happen to be a business person. But I could have ended up being a photographer, or I could have ended up being in the creative industries. And so as a creative person, you know, I like to create things. So having created MAID, which was an online platform, you know, one of the early online platforms, which was innovative and creative at that time, you know, once that was kind of done, you know, I needed something else to stimulate me. And, you know, I feel very energized and very fulfilled by creating businesses. I can't really explain it. And I suppose if you were to ask any entrepreneur, they're motivated by something. It's either money, maybe ego. I think we all have egos, entrepreneurs to some degree. But my greatest motivation is creativity, is creating something new. And you'll see in my career path and my CV that that's really what I've always been about, creating something that hadn't existed previously.
Is there any particular period that you can identify as being particularly stressful for you?
Oh, many. I mean, nothing in life's easy. I wish it was.
Does anything stick out to you?
Not in particular, not specifically. I mean, I think that, you know, as I've been through life, there's been lots of stressful, challenging periods from a business perspective, and also from a personal perspective. But in a business context, you know, going public the first time, it was unknown. I didn't know anything about the public markets, and then I became a public company CEO. And in that process, you're learning, but it's also very stressful. And actually, you know, this Spac process, although, you know, it is very new, is a very, very good method for going public. You know, it's had mixed kind of reaction in the recent months, but it's here to stay. It's a very compelling and a very sensible way for companies to go public, because it takes a lot of the pressure off the dynamic around the public scrutiny that happens in the lead up to it. And that's what we found very attractive in our merger with Armada.
Is there any particular business model that sticks out to you that you particularly respect?
I like revenue share models, and, you know, Rezolve has that model. In my previous businesses, you know, the business models developed from company to company, and from initiative to initiative. And I found that, you know, I was always a little bit frustrated when we were really helping businesses achieve fantastic success, and we weren't able to share in that success because our model had been more license-based or more, you know, monthly retainer kind of SaaS model based, but didn't have that upside. So, you know, I'm very focused now on revenue share models, because if you believe in your product and you believe your product can be successful for your customers, then you should benefit in that upside. You know, that's the right model for those types of products. If you think you're selling something that you know is a utility and can be replaced by something else, then you can't justify that, right? Because you'll be disaggregated from the customer's deployment. But when you have something unique, important, and special, then you have every right to share in the growth that you're helping to deliver. And if you know, in that context, you know, we feel extremely confident with Rezolve, of course, because it is fantastically unique and really does have a huge impact. Then it's perfectly reasonable to share that revenue, and nobody else can replace you. puts you in an even stronger position.
Of course. Now, Stephen, you've got an extensive background in the cashless payment technology space, but could you tell me more about what your background looks like and how you got here and the rest of your team at Armada?
Sure. I'll start, if I could, with the team at Armada. We think, we like to think we're different in this space, in the Spac space, in that, we're steeped in all types of operational expertise, whether it's legally on the operational side, like Tad Decker or Doug Lurio, or basically, just straight up operational stuff with myself and Celso and Mohammed Khan. And then one layer beneath that is, 75, 80 years of fintech experience with myself and Doug and Mohammed Khan. So, those are things that we think we as a group bring to the table. And we think it's made a difference. And it's, our process and our partner Cohen is what led us to Dan and his team. And hopefully we will fall into that category of SPACs that are more successful than some that don't quite have that operational or public company experience. But you also asked about myself, and I like to leave that for last. I like to talk about myself last. But just to give a little background, I spent 10 years with PepsiCo. Very, very fortunate, to be there back in I'm dating myself, from the mid 80s to the mid 90s. It was a very, very dynamic place. Still a great company, of course. But in those days, one was given a tremendous amount of responsibility, and the place just, it seemed to crank out general managers and CEOs. It was it was stressful, but one got a good education across. If you wanted to, you got lots of experience across many functional areas, which was good. In also probably one of the most competitive businesses, particularly at that time, one of the most competitive businesses in the world. After that, I went right to USA Technologies, which is now Cantaloupe. And, before there was a SaaS model, we developed a SaaS model. Before there was FinTech, we were a FinTech company. And then we took that basically from a startup to about $1 billion market cap. And I spent part of my time, as president, CEO, and then became chairman and CEO.
You talk about your team's background and experience within the space, but what do you think it is that's particularly unique about what you're bringing to the table with this partnership with Rezolve?
We not only brought a knowledgeable board, that could, help us to identify and look very closely at a potential partner like Rezolve. But we were also able to, because of the extensive experience with all of us in running public companies and, taking them public and so forth, we immediately were able to put our finger on a broad set of partners, which have been, wonderful partners in the process, really, for both of us. Starting with KPMG, I think, and Dan could comment on this too. They've provided a lot of value in terms of the due diligence process. And, you can do due diligence and sort of be a nuisance, or you can add value. And I think they fall on the other side of that equation of adding value. But I think being able to quickly bring good partners to the process through contacts, but also through experience, I think has helped both of us. It's helped Rezolve and it's helped Armada. That's just one example. And, just the day-to-day operating experience and so forth. And then later on down the road, as we all hit the ground running and work together, to make Rezolve the success we all know it can be. There are many, many decades of contacts all across the world that, we're anxious to share with Dan's team, when the time's right, for them, not for us. So just a few examples, and maybe, Dan, maybe something's popped out in the process that makes us different from other SPACs that you might have talked to. I don't know.
Yes, I mean, we saw many SPACs, Dan, through the process. I mean, I don't want to say interviewed them, but we certainly went through a process of evaluation. I think there have been some abuses of the SPAC process with companies looking to find a home, when they shouldn't really have been public companies, or maybe they were trying to take advantage of the structure. We saw it very differently. We had all our options in front of us. We determined that a SPAC route was the best one if we could find the right home for it. We had the pick of SPACs, really, lots of really high profile SPACs, but we felt that this one was the best for lots of reasons, one of which was clearly the management experience and contribution that they could bring to our business, but also the sponsors, Betsy Cohen and the Cohen Company, obviously Stephen and Doug as well, who are both sponsors and management. And then it was a smaller amount of money. We didn't want to give too much of our equity away. That sounds a bit odd, I know. The reality is that we think we're undervalued dramatically, and we didn't want to give up too much of our equity in getting onboarded to being a public company. At that point, we didn't need enough capital, that much capital to go for a very large SPAC pool. And so that was attractive too. And now that we're kind of coming out, the story will get out about what a great company this is, what the great progress and momentum we've already had, and how exciting the future is for the company. And that will permeate the market very quickly, because it doesn't take long for people to pay attention when a new market entrant is on there and is doing great things. So for all those reasons, we found the right home for Rezolve, and we're very happy with this relationship that we've developed with the team there.
What does Rezolve actually do, and what are you solving within the market?
Well, look, I'm a long-term e-commerce guy for the last 35 years, really e-commerce being the driver of my career. And I've been very frustrated by the fact that mobile commerce, or m-commerce as it's been phrased, in my view, until we came along, didn't exist. Mobile commerce is essentially e-commerce packaged to fit a small screen. And that's what we term as mobile commerce, or m-commerce. And I don't believe that is m-commerce, because I think the mobile device is an incredibly sophisticated piece of kit, and it has incredible capacity and capability that is really underserved by simply packaging an e-commerce site for a small window, for a small screen. So I set about some years ago to sit down with my key technologists and my product guys and so on. And I said, look, let's try to imagine a world where there are no systems in the hands of retailers, and all there is in the hands of our customers is a mobile phone. How would we talk to that device? How would we interact with that device? Let's not think about what's there today and how we can iterate on it. Let's think about a world where there is nothing. It's just a mobile phone. And that's how we came up with the idea of Rezolve. And Rezolve is a platform designed specifically from the ground up for mobile engagement or mobile commerce. Think of us as Shopify, but designed specifically for the mobile phone. It's kind of what we like to think of ourselves as being. And it's the same, but it's very different in that, the platform is a little piece of code that sits on the phone that can be embedded in anybody's app. It can be in the Target app, or the Bloomingdale's app, or the McDonald's app, or it could even be in what we call distributor apps, a bank app or a telco app, or Uber or Pinterest. And this little bit of code allows the phone to wake up to the world around it. It uses the phone's camera and microphone. It uses the phone's Bluetooth and the phone's location sensors to allow the phone to react to what we call triggers or engagements. And the merchant is able to set those engagements up so that the consumer can interact with things. So I'll give you an example. It might be that you see a poster in the street and you wave your phone over it and instantly you transact with that advertiser. Another example might be that you're in a certain location and you get a notification to offer you tickets for an event that is starting in half an hour, but is only 10 minutes away, that you weren't aware of, or that you didn't think there were tickets available for it. And many, many, many scenarios like that that are difficult to do now. They're not impossible. Nothing's impossible in technology today. Anyone can do anything, right? In theory. But what we've done is we packaged this up as a platform, as a commerce platform that is elegant, simple, easy to use, easy to deploy, and solves many, many problems that face merchants today in terms of engaging with consumers wherever they are, whether they're in their homes or whether they're in the street or wherever they are. And that's the real sort of development here. That's the creative spark of this business that sets us out and sets us apart.
What are all those segments? What do those look like?
You've got to think of us as a Lego kit. You know, any business coming to us can build whatever they like. We have all the pieces that allow them to engage with consumers wherever they are and in whichever way. And as I said before, you have to think of us as a platform, a kind of Shopify platform. When you think about commerce platforms like Shopify, you know, one day you can arrive at a Shopify site that's selling tickets, and the next day you can, if somebody's selling flowers, and the next day it's somebody engaging in a completely different way. And our platform is designed similarly, but it's all about the mobile phone. And you know, it's about time somebody tackled this difficult problem in an intelligent way. And you know, this has not been an easy journey getting to the point where we're here speaking as a public company. It's been a very difficult and challenging journey because it's a difficult problem to solve, but we're solving it in such a creative and elegant way, and it's proving to be so successful in market. That's so very gratifying for the visionary, right? For the creative person that we talked about at the beginning, because you never really know that your vision will transpire into reality, but it is. And we are, and this has got very significant implications for the world, because we can help those small businesses and medium and large businesses in the high street that are struggling to communicate with consumers because of lots of factors, and we help solve that problem with our tools.
And you had mentioned merchant partners. What does that onboarding look like from initial contact to actually the release?
Well, it very much varies. I mean, sometimes we're selling directly and sometimes we're selling via partners. And typically our go-to-market model is to work with partners. So what we tend to do is we work with channels that have large merchant customers, merchant bases, not necessarily large in size, but large in terms of number of merchants. And then those partners introduce our technology to their customers, and they share the revenue with us as a result of that. And so we can get very fast momentum in market as a result of that. And we've seen that. You know, there's a very, very rapid take-up of our services. Separate to that, you know, we can go to merchants directly. And in that case, we would go to very large merchants, as we've done with Lotte in Korea or Tata in India. And these guys are kind of conglomerates, and they adopt our technology and then deploy it across their business units and embed it in their apps, which then become the fabric of their engagement with their customers.
So you're serving small to large customers, but what does your revenue model look like to accommodate this?
So our revenue is very straightforward, actually, very simple. We charge a very nominal amount to activate a what we call trigger. So an example of that would be we charge a merchant to create a geozone. They can drop that geozone on the map with a pin using our dashboard, and then that is an active zone. And we would, depending on the size of it and the length of it, it's a couple of bucks a day, right? It's cheap. And that, when people are in that zone, or they enter that zone, or they exit that zone, they dwell in that zone, they meet certain criteria. There's lots of variables here, but they can communicate to people in that zone. and encourage them to do something, right? So the first charge is activation. So you can do the same with a product label, make it interactive with Rezolve. So I don't know, a packet of Kellogg's cornflakes can be Rezolve enabled, and then you can scan that Kellogg's cornflakes and things can happen. Every day it can change. It's very dynamic. It can be different things to different people. So if I scan it, I get one message, somebody else scans it, I get a different message. All of those tools and all those capabilities we provide. And there is a nominal charge for activating that packet, $50 a year. I think it doesn't matter how many millions of Kellogg's cornflakes they sell, it's $50 a year, like $1 a day, nothing. And then when there's a transaction, we take a very small clip of the transaction fee, as a transaction fee rather. So we take 1% of transaction value for transactions that we facilitate, i.e. purchases, and we take a nominal charge of 40 cents for capturing data, which may be a CRM engagement, like signing in for a loyalty program or requesting a test drive of the car that you watched a TV commercial for and your phone woke up, you get a test drive for the car. We charge 40 cents for those CRM engagements. And that's our model, activation and a small cut on the transaction.
And I'd like to give viewers an understanding of the scale of the business, of how it stands right now and how you got here.
We spent many, many years building this tech stack for global deployment. Our ambition is to be, for want of a better phrase, the Intel inside of mobile engagement. We see ourselves as being the standard. All great technology businesses or technology successes have been based on standards. The Wintel partnership powered the PC industry. VHS powered the home recording industry. And we think that what is needed now to support what has been an ailing high street, a stressful and difficult environment for retailers, is a new kind of standard. And Rezolve is that standard, we believe. And so building that as a platform, global platform for global deployment, requires an incredible amount of effort and time. And that brought us all the way up to 2020 before we actually started to generate revenue. We did various pilots, obviously, and various bits and pieces with different customers and partners. But ultimately, we didn't start generating revenue until the end of 2020. And between the end of 2020 and the end of 2021, our revenue in the year of 2021 was over $80 million. That's our first full year of trading. And we had what has been quoted in the market, and I don't want to refer to anything else, but at the end of October 2021, we had 138,000 merchants signed up to our platform. That's a lot in 1 year. And it represents a small percentage penetration of our partners' merchant base, because we have 20 million merchants that we can approach through our partners today. So 138,000 merchants out of 20 million is not a significant penetration of our partners' available market. But the point is, I have to say, even I was somewhat astounded by the momentum and take-up. It demonstrates how right we've got this, and how perfectly we've hit the market with the right product at the right time. And that's why we have such enormous confidence in our forecast this year of $219 million, and a doubling again next year, and a doubling again the year after. Now, those numbers are, somewhat, it could be perceived to be somewhat outlandish. And I can understand, given some of the overstated forecasts that Spac companies have had. So we somewhat can be put in the wrong bucket as a result of that. But I can tell you, we all feel that we're holding the golden ticket, and that this business is at an inflection point, really growing at an extraordinary rate. And that all comes down to having the right product for the market.
So you mentioned it could sound outlandish, especially with what we've seen from other SPACs, but could you give an idea of how you came to these projections?
Oh, there's an extremely detailed process that goes on behind the scenes for something like to forecast numbers in a business anyway, or it should be. And we have, I have very experienced management in my organization, people who worked with me for many, many years, some for many decades. And these people are very experienced executives who run their own P&L, and they build those P&Ls ground up and forecast and measure, and they are measured, and we measure their success against their delivery. So that's, the baseline. When you're introducing something new, it's difficult to forecast. And I can tell you that we had originally forecast $14 million for 2021. And then we realized when we got to January 2021, we did, we're going to do a lot more than that. So we reforecast it at just over $80 million, and that's what we hit. So, forecasting is an art, not a science, because there's a lot of unknowns. But as each month goes by, and as each quarter goes by, and as you get greater data and data points and so on, you start to get the levers that give you greater visibility and greater predictability about how things are coming along. And we have very high confidence and very great visibility into 2022, which we have forecast at 219. So even though the number is considerably up on 2021, the reality is we're going to meet it. And these numbers had to be validated externally. Stephen and his team, KPMG, the bankers, Barclays, Cantor, Cohen and Company. There's a rigid process to these things, and we are, all very, very comfortable and confident of that. And of course, I think it's worth mentioning, right? So many SPACs have come to market with outlandish numbers and failed to meet them. They're not experienced people like us, many of them. They're young entrepreneurs who are first into the market. It's their first foray. They don't understand the subtleties of what's required in the market to meet numbers and to be here in the long term. They might have been looking at the deal as an end game. We do the SPAC and that's it. We've become a public company and it's kind of like an end game. It's not an end game for us. It's the beginning. This is the very, very beginning of a very exciting growth business story.
You mentioned it's an art and a science, and it's this balancing act of all these different variables. I guess what I'm asking is there any particular emphasis that you would weight heavily to be able to have such confidence in the numbers going forward out a few years from now?
Well, yes, because what we've done here, and this was not how I came to market in my previous public companies when I was 30 years old and when I was 35 years old, and during my career when I was younger and more naive. These numbers are based on the deals we have right now. If we were to announce a deal tomorrow with a new partner, it will extend and enhance that revenue. So whereas in the past, and I can only speak for myself, I might have put forward forecasts that were dependent on certain events. It's always dependent on something, but dependent on certain deals that hadn't been done, that needed to get done in order for us to then be able to go to market and generate revenues on the back of it. The numbers that Rezolve has put out into the market with Armada are based on the deals we've already signed, deals that are already in market in most cases, and those deals just developing. And as I mentioned before, we signed up partners which have over 1 billion consumers that can use our technology, and over 20 million merchants that can be introduced to our technology. And we're really at the very beginning of that journey. So if we didn't do anything else and we just focused on the markets we're in today, then we will meet our numbers that are in the forecast. But we're not just going to sit and look at the markets that we're in today. That's not the kind of company we are at all. As I said to you before, we expect to be the dominant provider of this technology, the only provider of this technology worldwide. Today, we are the only provider of a platform like this. So we stand alone. And I think that we have the ability to leverage that position globally and very quickly. And this public company forum gives us that opportunity.
And can you give me an idea of what the markets that you're currently in?
Yes. Well, we are sifting the sands in lots of markets, if you know what I mean, looking for opportunities. and opportunities are coming at us in many markets. But our current revenue is being generated out of China, an eclectic mix. It'll soon be added by India, because we signed a major partnership deal in India, and we've been building and working with MobiKwik, which is a payment wallet similar to PayPal in India with 120 million users. And Fiserv, another partner of ours, together with ICICI Bank, can help bring merchants to us in that market. In total, about 6.5 million merchants. And so together, those three partners will help us drive momentum in that market. We are also in negotiations with major partners in new territories. And as I said before, as we sign these partners, they increment the opportunity for Rezolve in expanding our revenue potential in both the near and medium term, and also expanding our footprint and giving us a greater presence in the market, which we see as important in this kind of land grab. You know, when you have something unique, like we have at Rezolve, and compelling, and to some degree disruptive, or certainly progressive in the market, you have a need to move quickly to fully capitalize on the investment you made. And this is something I'm familiar with. I've run companies before that became market leaders, global market leaders and regional market leaders, and I know what you need to do to be in a leadership position and to maintain it. And we're not, we feel that we're an emerging market leader.
Now, you've spoken about the opportunity within the crypto wallet conversion. Could you give me an idea of the scale of this opportunity?
Yes, of course. Yeah. So what Rezolve does, as I mentioned before, is that we have technology that sits on the phone and then enables these transactions and enables the completion of a purchase. And as a result of that, although we're not a payment method, we connect to all the payment methods out there, from Apple Pay and Google Pay to WeChat Pay to Alipay to whatever, and all the credit cards and bank payments and so on. One of the things that we're not doing today, but we can easily do, is add a real-time crypto exchange. And I think that one of the, I'm a very big believer in cryptocurrency, and I believe it has tremendous import to the global financial markets and to consumers. And I think that, the retail industry, are going to be slow to take this up. But I like the idea of consumers instantly engaging with traditional retailers and being able to use their crypto assets to make that purchase. And we can affect a real-time conversion for them to enable that purchase, so that the merchant gets fiat or cash, traditional money, but the consumer can pay with their crypto funds. That's just one of many. That's just one of many upsell, cross-sell, and enhanced revenue opportunities for Rezolve.
Do you have others that you want to talk about that are potential opportunities?
I think moving into different markets, of course, is the obvious one, right? Because we can move into new markets, and that opens up significant revenue and growth opportunities for us. And the world's a big place when you're only starting in a few countries. So we've got plenty of countries to go to, one after the other. And when we go into those countries, we're not having to invest significant sums of money, because we're just a technology platform that can be plugged into large telcos or large bank systems or large distributor partner systems, and they go to market, looking at the markets we're already serving and seeing the success we have there, and saying, you know what, we want to use Rezolve in our market. We want to sell that. And that's actually what's happening now, because the word's out now. We kind of put our head above the parapet. As you said before when we first met, you hadn't heard about Rezolve until suddenly we were on the scene. And in many respects, that was deliberate. We've been keeping our heads down, and now we're ready to talk about this story, because now we have a lot to talk about, given the success we're seeing in market.
This is kind of the product that I didn't know that I wanted. We had spoken previously about you're at a restaurant, you've got your phone, and the menu is on a QR, and you're kind of fumbling around. It may be dark, you can't really scan it too well, and it seems even archaic. And it's something that we've all gotten used to over the past 2 years. It's all part of our lives, and having something that's more seamless, that's more friendly, that just seems more intuitive, would just be a really welcome change.
Yeah, look, I mean, I think in a way we spoke. QR codes have been around for an awful long time, and and they haven't really taken off in the West. They're very prevalent in Asia, but the idea, of triggering an engagement with your phone, which through a QR code or any other trigger, has been resisted until COVID came along, and COVID changed the nature. We don't want to touch things. We're very happy with our phone in our hand. We're happy to touch that all the time, put it to our face, speak in it and hold it, and it's ours. It's very personal. It's a very personal, very intimate device. Very different to a desktop machine or something. It's got a very different dynamic to it. We carry it around with us. It's next to us every day, every minute of every day, and we're looking at it every, 5 seconds, or depending on how committed you are to your phone. And so using it as a way to engage with the world around you is something that has been surprisingly difficult. You kind of walk around places and you're looking at your phone, you're disengaged from the world that you're walking around. And what Rezolve does is it makes that connection. It solves that disconnect between a consumer and where that consumer is at that moment. And so I think you nailed it there. I mean, what we've done is we have a very clear vision about how the consumer and their mobile device can be interactive with everything around them using our technologies, and that's what's needed. That's what's been needed for a long time. And what it does is it solves problems for many merchants and businesses who have struggled to talk to customers who are just outside the door or even in their store, but just disengaged. And we make that interactive experience of them being in the store and engaged, being outside of the store and engaged, and coming to the store as a result of that engagement. Those things have been difficult to determine. If you have a shop today on Lexington and 34th Street in New York City, you're only going to reach people who walk past your door. And Rezolve provides a solution to bringing people to the door, and then engaging with them where they are, and then bringing them to the door. And that's not been possible up until now.
I mean, really, it fundamentally changes the relationship between a business and their users or their customers. Completely flips it on its head.
Absolutely, and that's what we set out. That's exactly what we set out to do, because we felt desperately unhappy about what we were seeing in the high street, with major retailers going out of business because they weren't given the tools to talk to consumers.
Now, taking into account that this is a new category, I think it would still be helpful for viewers to understand a comparative valuation. So if I were to look at metrics from your financials to another company, which would make the most sense to compare that to?
We sit in between commerce, payments, and mobile ad tech, basically. And the nearest comparables to Rezolve, I would argue, are Shopify and Adyen, which is a payment platform. And because we kind of sit in between them both, we're a mobile commerce platform. We facilitate payments. We don't take payments. We facilitate payments. But sort of Adyen facilitates payments, and Shopify, of course, provide e-commerce. So we're kind of similar to both of those. And the metrics that you apply to those companies, we are valued as 55 to 90% discount to those in the market today, even after the recent correction in the market that we've seen in recent weeks. So, we're significantly undervalued compared to our peers, as much as 90%. And that means that we have considerable potential for investors to ride the growth of the company. We're so confident of our numbers for the coming quarters that investors will see that, right? They'll see the momentum in the business as it plays out in the public domain, and can join the investor base and share in the upside.
And we're discussing a lot about the merchant or the business interaction with their clients or their user base. But for viewers that are looking at this from an investment perspective, what should they care about? what should they be holding you to, whether it's a few days from now, a month, 6 months, or years down the road?
Very specifically, I think investors should be looking at this and saying, here is a company with an exciting product. They said they were going to do $80 million in 2021. Did they? They say they're going to do $219 million in 2022. Have they? Those are the metrics for the business. And when you layer on top of that, I think that's fundamentally, the focus for investors. But when you layer into that any new distribution partnerships that we may announce, that we expect to announce in the coming months, that open up new markets, that should excite those investors even more about the potential upside that those new partners bring. And if we do any tactical acquisitions, that should excite investors to see that this management team is very focused on market dominance. We believe that this is a opportunity to own the market, and that's our focus, that's our attention. So investors should look at the numbers first, the deals of opening up new opportunities second, and acquisitions third. And against all of that, they should measure confidence in the management and how they feel about how I'm running the business and the people with me are executing. And that is ultimately the measure of a great company.
Stephen, I'd like to give you the opportunity to kind of expand or reflect on what Dan is talking about and really the business.
Sure. Well, regarding Dan's team, I thought you were going to ask this question or one similar to it. And, one of the things that, has come through, and I think it's come through in this conversation with you, but it's come through over the last number of months with our team, is Dan and his team. They've got a fantastically talented group of people who are united in their effort. They're focused. They're very, very focused on what they're doing, and they're determined. So as time has gone by, and we've gotten to know the team more, we're very excited about the opportunity to work with and support his team in achieving the vision, hitting the objectives, and so forth. The business itself, I listened to Dan talk about a platform that never existed, and I feel like I'm listening to myself talk a number of years ago about what we did, and new consumer propositions, turning a market on its head, as you said, Dan. Those are all things that are incredibly compelling to us, and we think that the company has tremendous potential, and as I said, look forward to being useful and helpful in any way we can in achieving the goals that Dan and his team put forth.
I really, from this conversation, what I'm taking away is that it's changing that user experience, but it's an add-on, it's additive. And it's not going in and trying to recreate something new from nothing.
Yes.
And I've really enjoyed that you guys have been able to walk me through that, and really what you've created with Rezolve. So I appreciate you taking the time to speak with me today.
Oh, it's a pleasure.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for giving us the time to speak.
Indeed.